Hey guys, Julian here from synthwavepro.com. Thanks for hanging out with me today. So in this tutorial, let's just have a little bit of fun and look at some synthwave mixing tricks. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can later reference this tutorial because we are going to be covering quite a bit. Also, if you wish to support the channel, please check out some of the links in the description.
Now, without further ado, let's get started.
Alright guys, so thank you so much for tuning in. And what you see here on the screen is basically an excerpt. This is excerpt number 1, excerpt number 2. Excerpt number 2 basically has some, I guess you can call it synthwave magic, some mixing tricks here. And the differences are really subtle, but I really think it contributes to the genre, okay? You're going to hear these changes specifically when it comes to these purple colored channels. That would be the ride, that would be the snare, and of course the lead line. So these are the things to pay attention to when this second example rolls around. So let's go ahead and play this and I'll deep dive a little more. All right, so if you did not hear the difference, do not worry about it. These changes are really, really subtle. So I'll start off with this ride symbol here. In fact, let's go ahead and isolate this second example. I'm going to play the drum track. That would be these instruments. Put these guys in solo. I'll give you about a bar or two to hear the difference once it kicks in. And we're paying attention to the ride. Let me play that one more time. All right, so I'm pretty sure you detected the difference. The second version is introducing this ride symbol. It's sort of like adding some ambiance. Now, you'll hear a lot of synthwave artists use white noise or pink noise to sort of create this, you know, this vintage old school sound. In this example, we're using a ride symbol, specifically the sustain portion of the signal and not the transient, not the part where the stick hits the bell, just that sustain portion. All right, so let me isolate it. This is what it sounds like. Let me crank up the volume. So that's what we have running through this second example here. Now, we're not catching much of that transient. We're basically removing the initial transient of the signal, and we're basically relying on the sustain, all right? And so it's not even in tune, it's not even in tempo, so we're not playing quarter notes or eighth notes or 16th notes, it's just running throughout the track. And of course we are sidechaining it to our kick. So I think it has this really cool effect. Let me go ahead and do some A-Bing here. I'll give you a bar before. Without, with, without, again, something that's really cool for adding some ambiance to your track. Let's move on to this second purple track here. That would be the snare. And let's go ahead and play it out 2 bars before, and then you'll hear the difference once section 2 kicks in. All right, so if you didn't hear the difference, do not worry about it. These things are really, really subtle. So let me go ahead and isolate our drum track over here. So pay attention to what exactly is going on with our snare track here. As soon as we hit that second example or that second version, you should detect a noticeable difference with the snare drum, specifically the reverb. That's the hint. All right, so I'll explain what's going on here. We are creating this artificial backbeat, right? You can hear that the second version has this noticeable backbeat. It's almost like we're adding some another additional hit, and we're setting that hit way back in the room, and we do that with this secondary reverb here. So we have our standard reverb one, we have this room reverb. It's pretty long in terms of decay time. We have it set to 2.5 seconds, but over here, the second version, all of a sudden we get this nice backbeat. It's a gated snare. Let me isolate this snare and we can see exactly how it's functioning. And without it, crank up the volume. All right, so what we have going on here is that we are sending some signal to our secondary return channel, and on that channel we have it set with Valhalla Vintage Verb. We have it set to non-lin. This is probably one of the most important features of this particular preset if you're looking to recreate the effect. Make sure that the mode is set to non-linear. I believe it's one of the last ones in the menu, and you can set that tempo, the tempo of that backbeat, by manipulating the pre-delay time. Right, so now we have it set to 208.41 milliseconds. If I shorten it, hits a little sooner. Increase the pre-delay, and it's really late. So the trick here is to make sure that that additional offbeat, that backbeat, is basically in sync with our song. So normally you'd have it playing, you'd have some drums playing, and we can set the tempo somewhere around 210. .81. So it's almost like 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a. So our snare is hitting on the 2, and the actual backbeat is kicking in on the E of 2. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. All right, so for context, let's play the drums before and after, and we can see what this sort of backbeat trick is contributing to the sound. All right, so I think this is a really cool trick, a great way of filling up our mix without necessarily introducing another instrument. All right, and you can set those backbeats to 8th notes, 16th notes, as we're doing in this example, or any other rhythm you feel works with your track. All right, so let's move on to a third trick here. All right, so one more trick. This time we are going to focus on our lead instrument here. And we have some subtle automation taking place. Let's see if we're able to hear what exactly is going on. I'll give you a few bars out. All right. If you didn't hear that, that's absolutely fine. Let's go ahead and isolate this lead line and play the A and B versions. Pay attention to the delays. All right, so what's going on with these delays? Well, the second version, this version here, we are introducing some detuning, and we're doing this by introducing the LFO. This is one of those plugins from Max for Live, and we are mapping it to this second delay here, specifically the delay offset here. You can see this seems to be having some movement on the right channel. Now this is normally done to offset the rhythm. However, when you have signals playing and this is active, in other words, this is moving, it's going to cause some pitch shifting issues or repitch. So it's repitching the signal, especially once we have it set to repitch mode here. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the rate here, and you'll definitely start hearing that detuning factor. All right, so that's a little too much here. We have the rate set to 0.71, which is excessive. I think really cool values are typically around 0.04, 0.03. All right, so I think this is a really cool trick because it adds another dimension to our sound without really overdoing it. All right, easy peasy tricks. If you are new to the channel, thanks again for hanging out, and consider subscribing and liking the video. If you've been here since the very beginning, I thank you once more for your continued support. That being said, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.